Yo, yo, yo! You're watching episode 2 of the Aidan Randleman Show with your host, coming at you from the East Coast, Aidan Randleman. We are excited to bring you the most pertinent news, conversations, and information from around the nation, with more people listening and watching our show than your local radio station. Our goal is to provide you with the biggest stories of the week while being so entertained that you just can't fall asleep. In just a few moments, we'll begin our journey into the worlds of sports, business, politics, media rumors, and conversations, along with the opinions of my fascinations. But first, let me tell you about our wonderful sponsor for today's episode. Providing amazing service for their happy customers all across the metro Atlanta area, Lake Point Complete Linen. Restaurants and kitchens everywhere are singing their praises and calling their line for high quality, clean and fresh towels and aprons, the best and brightest logo or non-logo mats and maintenance, along with the sharpest and most supreme knives, knife sharpening, and knife exchange services. Please email llpcompletelinen@gmail.com or call text owner Aidan Randleman at 678-663-0093 for a free quote and conversation today. So, to start off today's episode, we're going to keep it rolling into this week's sports segment, where we are going to start with our favorite train wreck we get to witness in real time, our not-so-high-flying Atlanta Falcons. Now, I had some fans reach out to me last week about our episode, not so happy with what I had to say about our team. And look, guys, to be honest, I hate that I have to say it, but I'm not going to lie to you guys. Not once, not twice, not ever. I have to call it how I see it, and that's why you guys watch the show. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right. But if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, I'm going to tell you guys that it's a duck. And I hope I'm wrong about my assessment. I hope in the bottom of my heart that Tua is in the MVP race this year. Doubt it. I hope that we make it to the playoffs and win the Super Bowl. Doubt it. But I saw the writing on the wall. And I hate that this organization gets our hopes up every year just to break our hearts in the first 5 games of the season. I think we need higher expectations for this team, guys. This city deserves a football team to be proud of. And the first step in getting there is not lying to ourselves about what we have. I get no amount of joy in telling you that this year's team is going to be a complete disaster. And if that preseason game didn't tell you anything about where this team's at, let me just run through some stats from the game just really quick, because it hurts me, a lifelong Falcons fan, but I have to bring this to y'all's attention. Here we go. Offensive stats: 133 passing yards, 59 rushing yards, 2 interceptions, 1 for a pick 6, 1 touchdown. Defensive stats: 197 pass yards allowed, 162 rushing yards allowed, 1 takeaway, and 20 points allowed, with another 7 points coming off of a Cooper Rush's pick 6, leading to a final score of 27-7 for the Broncos. Whew, I had to go through that as quickly as I could, because it hurts me to look at these numbers and tell you the truth. But exactly as I said last week, complete rebuild mode. Stink, Fansky era. And don't be mad at me, folks. Don't come yelling at me. You should be mad at this organization that fields a team like this and expects us to be happy with these results, while lying to us the whole entire offseason and telling us that we have a chance. I'm not going to be proud of a team, and neither should you, that doesn't net us results. We need to have an expectation and some pressure on this ownership. A real fan wants, no, not once, a real fan demands a winner, at least something competitive. And I'm not going to be okay with not only the way this team is, but the way they spin us this story every year since we've lost the Super Bowl. And just tell us the truth. We are rebuilding to make a winner. Probably not this year, probably not next year, but we are working towards building a better team starting from the inside out. Imagine if we just accepted the rebuild 5 years ago. We would have a playoff team by now, folks. But we've muddled in mediocrity, been in complete denial, and it hurts. It hurts me, it hurts you, it hurts the city, it hurts our image nationally, and I'm tired of swimming around in nasty, murky, swampy, loser water. And I know you are too. It's time to throw away the life raft and start building ourselves a better boat. Hopefully they can prove me wrong. We get better results next game, but as of right now, it is what it is, folks. So this Saturday, we're scheduled to have an away game versus the Indianapolis Colts, and maybe, just maybe, we'll see something that we can at least hang our hats on. And I know some of you guys are saying, well, Aidan, it's preseason. The games don't count. Trust me, I know. Well, so does the other team. And the score is the score is the score. If we can't win in preseason, I don't understand what would lead you or I or anyone to believe that this team can have wins in the regular season. We need higher standards for this team, folks, to stop letting mediocrity and worse completely slide. Now, enough of Falcons talk. Let's move on to the next team we have on our list, our hometown Atlanta Hawks. So, our season schedule was just released this past week, and we do have some interesting news to report. Our first preseason game starts us off on October 5th, just about a month away, versus the Memphis Grizzlies, and our first regular season game will be versus division opponent, last year playoff team, the Orlando Magic in Orlando on October 21st. With the starting five still waiting to officially be announced, I'm looking forward to see what Coach Quinn has for us in preseason. Like I said last week, I think we should be expecting a more defensive-minded and team-oriented basketball. I think with our roster and with our philosophy that we should be able to at least make a run for at least a playoff spot. What I want to bring to your attention, however, this is the juicy news, is our NBA Cup group, because it is a very interesting one. We were placed in Group C, along with the Chicago Bulls, the Charlotte Hornets, the Boston Celtics, and very interestingly, the Washington Wizards, with their new $53 million a year point guard, the titular Trae Young, who, if you didn't already know, was our former All-Star, our former playoff winning point guard before we got rid of him in exchange for CJ, Major General McCollum, and Corey. Knock him down, kiss him. And a move that I'm glad we made. I'm looking forward to seeing play this year, along with future megastar Jalen Johnson, playmaker Nickeil Alexander-Walker, the Thunder from Down Under, Dyson Daniels, and our premier rim breaker, Onyeka Okongwu. I think this team is not only solid, folks, but we will be a force to be reckoned with as this team develops, as we get deeper in the season towards the playoffs. All the pieces are there for us. I think Coach Quinn is a pretty darn good chess player when it comes down to it, and most importantly, I'm looking forward to this team rubbing it in Trae Young's little face. That this team, and any team, is bigger than him or one individual player. That we not only knock him and the rest of the Wizards out of the NBA Cup, but we put a 4-game sweep on him and do what we can to make sure he never sees the playoffs again. I think the Hawks should make it personal. Make a statement that no player is above what this team or any team can accomplish. Most importantly, how we've gained now that we're not brought down by a selfish player that cares more about his image than about winning NBA championships. Guys, I have some great optimistic news to report from our next team, Atlanta United. We have done what seemed impossible and snatched victory from the jaws of defeat in a beautiful comeback win versus the New York Red Bulls on August 15th in the Mercedes-Benz Dome, bringing our 7-game winless streak finally to an end. So in the 6th minute of the game, a snapper of a goal came from Red Bull attacker Emil Forsberg. But after that, United was able to hold their own and eventually regain their composure and fight back, scoring 2 goals in the last 20 minutes to win a thrilling 2-1 homestand victory. Our first goal came from midfielder Tristan Mumbayat. In his ceremonial 100th appearance for our club, he found himself with a clean look just outside of the 18-yard box, and in a moment that could be described as either instinct or genius, he swiftly strikes the ball with his right foot, sending it to the left of Red Bull's keeper, Ethan Horvath, curled over and out of reach of his outstretched left hand, and nestled it into the top right upper 90 of the goal. A beautiful goal from Muyamba, an assist from Murnchuk, and an equalizer for United in the 69th minute. With momentum on their side, our Atlanta United team continued to battle for a winner, and in the beginnings of the 81st minute, our franchise star, Miguel Almiron, sends in a beautiful left-footed cross to the back post of New York's goal. Directed by a jumping Fafa Pico and his shiny bald head, the ball zipped down between Horvath's closing legs and ricocheted into the back of the net, cementing our glorious comeback against the 8th-seeded playoff spot New York Red Bulls, giving us our 4th win of the season, but most importantly, upsetting the Red Bulls with their 8th loss of the season. So we still have an enormous amount of work to do if we do want to make this season a success, but even more reason to be excited about a win at home, especially in this comeback fashion. Our next match has us up in Allianz Field in Minnesota for an away game versus 9th place in the West, Minnesota United. who will be looking to upset our winning ways after they come off of a hard-fought draw versus Real Salt Lake. Maybe this weekend's victory will be the turning point of the season, and if miracles happen, be the start of our climb back up the standings, and hopefully into what would be a tremendously fought for a playoff spot come the end of the season. So, for our next team, as our shining light and Northern Star, Atlanta Braves, this has not been the best week, as we were able to finish out and win the series against the Mets last week in a 6-3 grudge match on August 13th that gave us home run blasts from Lane Thomas, Mike Yastrzemski, and Austin Riley. A great showing by starting pitcher Tyler Mao, throwing a total of 93 pitches across 6 innings, allowing only 4 hits with only 1 earned run, which turned into a home run off of bat Luis Torren, and finishing with 7 strikeouts. Their next game, played on August 14th, was a series opener against the Arizona Diamondbacks, where they disappointingly were shut out by Diamondbacks pitcher Brandon Pfaadt, where he, in 7 innings, threw 87 pitches, gaining 7 strikeouts and only allowing 2 hits versus our Braves. On our side, we had veteran ace Chris Sale starting on the mound, where he tied his season high by throwing a whopping 108 total pitches, allowing 5 hits and 1 earned run in the first inning off a sequence of hits that led to an RBI groundout by Gabriel Moreno, which gave Geraldo Perdomo time to get home from third base. But after that, Chris Sale bounced back and threw 9 strikeouts over the course of the game. The Diamondbacks gained their second run in the top of the 9th inning from a solo shot by Tim Tawwell off our relief pitcher Tyler Kinley. They couldn't seem to find their footing against the Diamondbacks, as the next game saw them fall to a greater margin, 10-3, where our star batter, Ronald Acuna Jr., opened up the show with a leadoff home run. It was followed by a ground-out RBI by Michael Harris, who was able to send Drake Baldwin to home plate, putting us in a 2-0 lead to finish off the top of the first. However, when the inning flipped, our starter, Grant Holmes, gave up a 2-run bomb to Nolan Arenado, along with a series of hits and walks that earned the Diamondbacks another run. In the next frame, they continued to run up the score to put them up 6-2 by the end of the 3rd inning, with the Diamondbacks adding 1 more run in the 7th inning from a second home run from Arenado, and wrapping up the game with another 3 runs in the 9th. Grant Holmes finished his starting shift with 6 hits, 6 runs allowed on 65 pitches, while also throwing 3 walks and 3 strikeouts, leading to Watt Weiss pulling him out pretty early in the middle of the 3rd inning. However, the Braves were able to turn the tables in the last game of the series, posted a solid 5-3 win over the Diamondbacks. Starting pitcher Bryce Elder threw 75 pitches in 6 total innings, allowing only 1 run off of 4 hits, throwing a total of 5 strikeouts along with 1 walk. And Diamondback starting pitcher, former Atlanta Brave, Michael Soroka, ended his night in the 5th with a total of 80 pitches, allowing 6 hits and 1 walk, claiming 5 strikeouts, culminating in 2 earned runs. The Braves opened up the scoring as Dominic Smith came into home plate from an RBI single from Ronald Acuna Jr. in the bottom of the 1st. And the next run wasn't scored until the top of the 4th, where Gabriel Moreno of the Diamondbacks hit a solo shot off of Bryce Elder to tie up the game. The Braves were able to retaliate in the next inning as Austin Riley scored a run off of another RBI from Ronald Acuna, this one getting him all the way to second base. The real action of the game came in the 7th inning, where Diamondbacks were able to tie the game once again from an Ildrimo Vargas solo shot home run, but succumbed to the batting prowess of Matt Iron Man Olson in the Braves' turn of the inning, where he blasted a pitch from Brandon Garcia, sending the ball a total of 437 feet, bringing himself, Austin Riley, and Drake Baldwin home, clutching up on a 2-out situation as he forced Garcia into a 3-0 count and crushing a 96-mile-per-hour meatball straight over the center wall, earning him his 36th home run of the season and securing Atlanta's win in the last game of the season, bringing their total record to 74 wins and 50 losses and keeping the Phillies 7.5 games behind. So that will finish up the rundown of this week's sports section. An inspiring effort from all of our teams, but still with a lot more to prove in their respective seasons. Now, time to move on from the wonderful and world of sports and into the wacky and wild world of celebrity news, gossip, rumors, and a little taste of true crime in this week's segment. So our first topic will be covering the case of Selena Gomez and her mother, Mandy Teefey, allegedly committing fraud against their company's investors. The owners of Wondermind LLC, a mental health startup, including Selena Gomez, Mandy Teefey, and Daniela Pearson, are facing various accusations consisting of substance abuse, mismanagement of the company, and complete lack of transparency. The accusing companies, Wondermind SRS-44 and Bespoke Wondermind, claim that they have invested over $1.2 million for Selena to market the company on TV shows and media interviews. The companies testify, however, that Selena claimed that she was heavily involved and rooted in the business, but no effort was shown after their monetary investments were made. Former business partner Daniela Pearson falsely represented her past success in business and how much she could potentially return on their investments. The investors were intentionally made unaware of the dire financial constraints of the company and only found out about Wondermind's financial issues through an expose published in September 2025 by The Cut, a premier digital and print women's media brand owned by Lupa Systems under the Vox Media umbrella, which described the company Wondermind as being a, quote, a state of disarray. The expose outlined Mandy Teefey's alleged substance abuse disorder of crushed Ritalin and liquid Benadryl, and her gross mismanagement at the top of the company, struggling to meet their most basic obligations, such as paying vendors and employees on time, along with Selena's, quote, abject dereliction of her duties to the company. Her active efforts to distance herself from it due to her personal struggles with her mother, Mandy Teefey. Mandy has not only vehemently denied the substance abuse allegations, but has also stated that the company was, quote, a mess. She responded by saying, quote, it's unfortunate that a few disgruntled employees with an axe to grind can spread lies about me and distort the truth. And even more disappointing that the media is willing to amplify their lies, end quote. The investors claim that when Mandy was confronted with the allegations, she tried to blame defendant Daniela Pearson, who had already left the company in January of 2023. While these claims were made years later in September of 2025. Months to September, Wondermind reportedly laid off 60% of its 15-person staff after employees claimed they, quote, haven't been paid in weeks. The company also owed tens of thousands of dollars to freelancers and vendors, with a Wondermind spokesperson blaming, quote, growing pains at the time. The investment companies are suing for securities fraud and seeking unspecified damages, including the return of their investments and other damages. Selena Gomez's lawyer, Matthew S. Rosengart, has responded to the lawsuit, saying, quote, the allegations that Selena Gomez engaged in any way whatsoever in any purported fraud or other wrongdoing are completely meritless, both factually and legally. End quote. He vowed to, quote from his words, vigorously defend these false allegations and stated that they are indeed filing a motion to dismiss the baseless claims against the pop star. So this is still an ongoing lawsuit. We will be sure to report more as the details emerge, but for now, that's all we've been given. So turning our attention to a topic that's been going on for 3 decades and now maybe just be culminating, the accused murder of hip-hop legend Tupac Shakur is in the process of facing trial for the 1996 September 7th shooting and eventual murder. The jury selection for Dwayne Keefe D. Davis was concluded last week as the jurors, consisting of 10 women and 6 men, which will be 12 sitting jurors and 4 alternatives. Although they've been selected and assigned to determine whether Dwayne Davis was guilty or not of murdering Tupac, the judge, Honorable Carly Kearney, will have the final determination in his sentencing. Davis, now age 63, is the only person to be charged in Tupac's death, which has led to decades of speculations and conspiracies. As, the way the story goes, on the night of September 7th, 1996, Tupac Shakur attended the heavyweight fight between Mike Tyson and Bruce Seldon at the MGM Grand and Casino in Las Vegas. And according to Davis's memoir, titled Compton Street Legend, Davis and his crew, members of the Southside Crips, were confirmed to be in Las Vegas that night, but he has claimed that they were there just to enjoy the Las Vegas nightlife, not to cause any trouble. However, the way the story goes is Davis's nephew, Orlando Baby Lane Anderson, was attacked inside of the hotel lobby of the MGM Grand after the heavyweight bout had concluded. Davis claims that Shakur and his group were the ones responsible for the attack, saying the attack on Anderson was in retaliation for a prior incident, a mob brawl and chain snatching incident that occurred 2 months earlier in July of 1996 at the Lakewood Center Mall in Lakewood, California, where during the brawl, Orlando Anderson had snatched a customized gold Death Row Records medallion necklace that a member of the mob Piru Bloods Trayvon Trey Lane was wearing. And as the members of Tupac's crew were leaving the MGM Grand, Trayvon Lane pointed out to Tupac that Orlando Anderson was standing on the other side of the room next to an elevator bank and telling Tupac that he was in fact the one that stole the chain, leading Tupac to confront Anderson and culminating in a massive fight inside of the MGM Grand hotel lobby. Davis has never stated who made the official call to shoot Shakur, claiming it was only incidental, that his crew, consisting of Orlando Babylon Anderson, Terrence Bubble Up Brown, and DeAndre Big Dre Smith, called up to Suge Knight's vehicle that night. Suge Knight, a music executive and co-founder of Death Row Records, sat in the driver's seat of his black BMW, while Shakur sat in the passenger seat when the shooting occurred. They were waiting at the red light of the intersection of Flamingo Road and Corval Lane, when suddenly, from the right side of the vehicle, the passenger window behind the driver's side of a white Cadillac sedan DeVille lowered and shot an estimated 9 to 14 rounds from a Glock 22 handgun. 40 caliber rounds entered the vehicle, one bullet grazing Knight's head, while several other bullets hit Shakur, one in the arm, one in his thigh, and two entering into his chest, with the fatal kill shot tearing through his right lung. Tupac was rushed to the University Medical Center of Southern Nevada, where he was treated for his wounds, but eventually succumbed to the injuries 6 days later, eventually dying on September 13, 1996. Being the only surviving member of the occupants of the white Cadillac DeVille, Dwayne Davis was arrested and has been in custody since September 29, 2023, where he was granted a cash bond of $750,000, which was actually to be paid by legendary hip-hop music producer Cash Jones. But Judge Kearney blocked the bond release, stating that there were concerns with the source of the funds for the bond being legitimate, with jailhouse phone calls from Davis referring to Cash Jones' payment as a front and middleman for other hidden entities that would be sponsoring his release, while also potentially violating Nevada's law against criminals from profiting off of their crimes, as the money was tied to future interviews, television series, and other content related to the death of Tupac Shakur. The opening statements of his trial begin on October 17th, and for Dwayne Davis's trial, with the trial estimated to last 4 to 6 weeks, where we will be following the trial closely and updating you as more details are released. In other pertinent news, a mother and former delivery nurse from Massachusetts is on trial for the murder of her 3 young kids. On January 24, 2023, Lindsay Clancy and her husband Patrick sent a series of text messages in reference to getting takeout from 3V, a restaurant featuring classic American foods, and to pick up a prescription from the local pharmacy. During the time Patrick was gone, however, which was approximately 55 minutes, Lindsay used exercise bands found at the home to strangle their 3 children, 5-year-old Cora, 3-year-old Dawson, and 8-month-old Callan, in the basement of their 2-story colonial-style home. According to official court documents, she then cut her own throat and wrists with a kitchen knife and proceeded to jump out of the 2nd-story window. The husband, Patrick, came home to find Lindsay lying on the ground, injured and in pain from her fall. After asking what had happened, she replied with, quote, "I tried to kill myself." And after asking where were the 3 kids, she told him in the basement. He then proceeded to call 911, and in the phone call, you can hear his anguished and pained screams when he discovered the kids and their condition. Once police and emergency services arrived, Lindsay was taken to the local hospital, South Shore Hospital, under 24/7 police custody, where she was kept for a short time until she was life-flighted to the Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston, where she was treated for severe injuries, including a fractured spine, which left her paralyzed from the waist down, deep lacerations on her throat and wrists, severe hypothermia, and a post-arrival cardiac arrest, requiring resuscitation and blood transfusions for significant internal damage. She was kept there until her injuries healed to a non-critical stage and then transferred to Spalding Rehabilitation Hospital on March 23rd, where she was transferred a 3rd time to Tewksbury State Hospital, a medical and psychiatric care facility, on May 3rd, where she has remained under police custody. Her trial officially began on July 20th with jury selection and has continued with opening statements and witness testimonies, which began on July 27th. Prosecutors are arguing that she is guilty of 3 counts of first-degree murder, being aware of her actions and having orchestrated the murders by creating a window of time for the crime without intervention, The evidence that Clancy's search history includes hallucinations, psychosis, and the proper way to commit the attacks. Her ability to perform normal daily activities before the crime, including setting a doctor's appointment and playing with her kids in the snow. And during the trial, the medical examiner stated that the children would have suffered pain during the attack, indicating extreme cruelty from Clancy's actions. Her defense team is not denying that she committed the crime, but is arguing that she is not guilty of first-degree murder by reason of insanity. The defense's position is that Clancy suffered from severe, untreated postpartum psychosis and undiagnosed bipolar disorder, exacerbated by a cocktail of 12 to 13 prescription drugs, which led to a severe psychotic break that caused her actions that night. She has filed lawsuits in late January after the murders against her medical providers, alleging a, quote, catastrophic failure to diagnose her and therefore provide adequate treatment for postpartum psychosis, a rare condition only occurring in 1 to 2 cases per 1,000 births, where the patient can develop extreme mood swings, delusions, and confusion following birth. Records show that she has also made statements that she suffered daily suicidal thoughts, and that her medications were, quote, destroying her mind, even going as far to admit herself to a psychiatric facility not only once, but 3 separate times. The first being in early December of 2022, a month before the incident, where even though she contacted the facility twice in consecutive days about her intrusive suicidal thoughts, she was denied care on the basis that she did not provide a specific and active suicide plan at that moment. The second being later that same month, where her worsening symptoms were attributed to her medications, told to taper off of the prescriptions, and subsequently released after just 1 day. With the third and most successful of her attempts being on December 31st of that month, where she was admitted to McLean Hospital, hospitalized for 5 days, and further released on January 5th, 2023, committing the murders only later that month. While on the stand, her husband Patrick testified that Lindsay disclosed to him that she heard auditory hallucinations that night, specifically a man's voice telling her to take the life of her children. The defense also claims that her medical care was fractured and disjointed, causing more harm to her mental health, as she was seeing several different specialists and had been prescribed a combined amount of 12 to 13 different medications that included 5 different benzodiazepines, anti-anxiety medications, 5 different antidepressants, 2 different antipsychotics and mood stabilizers, and 1 sleep aid. The defense also put her family members on the stand, including her former mother-in-law and a former nanny, that testified that Lindsay was an exceptionally loving mother who was hyper-focused on her children's safety and well-being before her mental illness took over. Also shown during the trial were journal entries and phone notes written by Lindsay prior to that night, where both the prosecution and defense are attempting to use her words to prove their case, with examples such as an entry for November 2022 that reads, "I'm so desperate to get a mental break from taking care of everyone that my mind is trying to make something physically wrong with me." And other examples chronicle multiple passages where Lindsay writes she was completely overwhelmed and felt like she was drowning every day. In an entry from October of 2022, where Lindsay obsessively regrets her parenting choices and admitted to feeling resentment towards her 2 older children because of the time and effort they took away from providing for baby Callan. The Honorable Judge William Sullivan estimates that the trial will last 6 to 8 weeks in total. If Lindsay is convicted of first-degree murder, she faces a mandatory life sentence in a specialized ADA-compliant prison medical facility rather than a standard maximum security cell block due to her permanent paralysis. However, if she is found not guilty due to reason of insanity, she will be acquitted of the criminal charges but not released. She will be immediately committed to a strict state-run inpatient psychiatric hospital, put through a 45-day evaluation period to determine her current level of mental illness and danger to society. There, she will remain confined until medical experts and a judge determine that she no longer poses a danger to herself or the community, which in these cases frequently results in lifelong institutionalization. So we will be updating you more as the trial commences, but now we will be jumping from our celebrity news and true crime segment to going to our political and business segment of the week. So big news this week comes from our new war, or I would say rather, continued war in the Middle East. Sailors from the USS Abraham Lincoln, a nuclear-powered supercarrier stationed in the North Arabian Sea, which is next to the country of Oman, are reporting that conditions aboard the ship are particularly dire and unlivable. The story goes it officially departed from our naval base in San Diego on November 21st of last year. The strike group was originally planned for a routine 7th-month deployment in the Indo-Pacific region. However, due to President Trump's war on Iran, it was commanded in January to make its way towards the Iranian coast, eventually reaching its designated station in the Arabian Sea on January 26th. And in between February 28th and May 5th, the jets on the carrier, consisting of F-35C Lightning IIs and F-18 Super Hornets, took part in a coordinated joint operation with Israel's military to attack Iranian military targets in what was labeled as Operation Epic Fury. And since April 13th, the carrier was ordered to be the primary maritime enforcer of the naval blockade on the Strait of Hormuz, taking part in multiple military actions such as intercepting hundreds of drones and missile attacks from Iran and enforcing the naval blockade of the strait, shrinking down the commercial ship activity to only 17% of its pre-war average. Due to its military actions and importance in the naval blockade, the USS Lincoln has been at sea for a record-breaking 247 consecutive days as of August 16th, and counting since a brief logistical stop in Guam on December 11th, officially breaking the record of 206 consecutive days by the USS Eisenhower back in 2020, which was due to ports being closed during the COVID pandemic. Conditions on the ship have led to multiple reports of sailors attempting to jump overboard, either succeeding and later being rescued in one instance, or being physically restrained and pulled away in others. Due to increased security restraints and limited mail and messaging, statements from sailors and airmen are rare, but some have made their voices heard to family members, investigative journalists, and legislators, with quotes coming out stating, sailors are, quote, counting down the days to see if they can survive. Spouses receiving texts from sailors stating that they, quote, hope they don't wake up tomorrow, and morale aboard the ship being noted as dead, with sailors reporting staring blankly at walls during non-working hours or overheard crying in their bunks. Lawmakers have received letters saying that they are eating, or quote, eating expired rations because a fresh food supply ran out, quote, months ago. And even though the Pentagon and the U.S. Central Command have deemed these statements as being, quote, completely misrepresented, families from service members have pushed back on these statements, saying that their loved ones have stated, quote, the rumors of people jumping are 100% true, no matter what the news says. Other reports have stated that the facilities in the ship have reached negligent levels due to lack of maintenance because of the extended time at sea, with statements being made that, quote, the laundry facilities are broken and the water smells like fuel, followed by videos taken aboard the ship exposing clogged toilets of human waste and sewage backups and have reportedly, quote, strewn all across the restroom floors. Other reports state that they have totally run out of hygiene supplies, such as soap, deodorant, toothpaste, and feminine hygiene products, along with there being mold and mildew spreading from the bathrooms into other areas of the ship due to poor ventilation and deteriorating exhaust systems. After these reports and intense pressure from family members and lawmakers alike, Navy Secretary Hung Chow has called the ship back to port and to be replaced by the USS George Washington to continue the blockade and other military operations in the area. He has continued to address the situation, explaining, quote, it is true that a small number of mental health cases were treated, end quote, but that there was, quote, no loss of life, end quote. He has boasted the achievement of the USS Lincoln by saying the USS Abraham Lincoln has crushed their deployment, pointing out that they have completed over 10,000 sorties, which is defined as a single operational mission by one individual aircraft from takeoff to landing. And they have dropped over 1.5 million pounds of ordnance during their missions. In an effort to explain the hardships of the crew members, he said, quote, meal plans were adjusted when fresh supplies were not available, end quote, and communication blackouts were standard protocol when operational threats were too high. He concluded his press release by stating, quote, there is no question our young men and women have been pushed to their limits, but they have never broken. Our force and their families are not victims. They are the epitome of American strength and resilience. Other military leaders, such as Central Command Chief Admiral Brad Cooper, have said, quote, of the U.S. Navy's 11 active aircraft carriers, the Lincoln currently has among the lowest number of cases related to mental health, and also added, quote, this doesn't mean that all is perfect. Service at sea for long periods isn't for everyone. It is uniquely challenging and tough, end quote. While Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth was staunch in his position that the horrific living conditions and suicide attempts were, quote, completely misrepresented, and that we make sure that every ship, every crew, every captain has everything we can to provide them at every single moment. Some deployments are longer than others, end quote. The timeline for the USS George Washington to replace the Lincoln in the Arabian Sea has been estimated to be around August 22nd, where a handover period will begin and conclude with the USS Lincoln heading home towards the port of San Diego, which will approximately take 3 to 4 weeks travel time. So in conclusion, and in better news, San Diego nonprofits, family networks, and military support groups are organizing community-led preparations to welcome back the over 5,000 sailors and Marines. The San Diego Council of the Navy League is coordinating its homecoming committee to assist families in preparing signs, banners, and facilitate local business donations to have for returning sailors, so they have access to basic comfort items upon docking. The Family Readiness Group, or FRG, is shifting from its intense town halls, which expose the conditions on the ship, into its Family Readiness Program, where their main goals are fundraising for pierside treats and building welcome home landing zones for their families who will be traveling to San Diego from out of state. So in light of this story and the other reports coming from the war in Iran, I have and almost forced to think, as I think many Americans should be asking themselves, 2 questions. 1, what is all this for? And number 2, is this really worth it? Because as what's been stated and shown numerous times, war is hell. And I don't think that we should be mindlessly supporting the destruction of not only other humans on the other side of the world in a country that I've for certain never been to or seen much of, and I would likely assume that most Americans don't have an accurate depiction of Iran, but not only the destruction of their civilization, but the destruction of our military, our service members, and our relationships and perspectives of our country as a peacekeeping nation. From the research I've gathered, the goals of this war are, number 1, what's been touted as the main goal is to permanently dismantle Iran's nuclear capabilities and ensure they cannot build a nuclear weapon, which is what seemingly every president since Jimmy Carter has used as an excuse to conduct these type of military operations. The number 2 goal, to obliterate Iran's military capabilities either through their own mechanisms, their naval resources, or their military proxies, which are state or non-state groups that fight on their behalf, which include Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. And number 3 goal, to increase political instability in order to inspire regime change of Iran's government. So, my question is, what has changed from this administration compared to the past administrations that we've had in this regard? I'm sure that most Americans feel the same way as I do when it comes to these never-ending wars and conflicts, that they've only proven themselves to do exponentially more harm than good, and if actually they do any overall good at all. Another generation is forced to live through and be impacted by warfare in the Middle East. We continue to inflict unnecessary pain on ourselves and other nations, more national debt, more veterans from war, more casualties, and more death. The same problems that are communicated as reasons for these military operations haven't gotten any better. And I'm sure the argument could be made as to how the problems have actually gotten worse. So, if these reasons weren't good enough back then at what point are they just excuses, and I would say excuses to further produce profits for the military-industrial complex and their companies to widen the gap between our interests and needs as American citizens in counter to the minority global stakeholders that can afford to seemingly distance themselves from the effects of these actions. I don't believe, and I'm sure you don't either, that we should continue to let these be the reasons why we can't afford to sufficiently increase the quality of life for not only the most downtrodden and most needing of our citizens, but increase the life of the total American experience. I am sick and tired of it, folks, and I don't believe that I'm the only one. It's time for us to raise our standards, apply our efforts, and focus towards a better world, not only for ourselves, but as a way to increase the quality of life for our neighbors as well. Well, folks, that wraps up our second episode of the Aidan Randleman Show with your host, Aidan Randleman. I hope that you enjoyed the information and were as entertained as you could be through this week's topics. We will see you next week on Wednesday for our latest installment. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great week, and please stay tuned for our musical guest, Aidan Randleman.
Aidan will be performing original rock music, and he has been performing when asked for not long enough, he says. So we'll be the judge of that. Come on out, Aidan. Let's give him a round of applause.
I think I got pranked on my intro a little bit, so I'll try to inch up. Y'all can hear me okay? Yeah. So I'm a Georgia native. I was born in Kennesaw Hospital. It's pretty cool if you've ever been there. I was raised in Ackworth. I went to Woodland High School in Cartersville, and then now my fiance and I, we actually have a business where we wash towels and aprons and we sharpen knives for restaurants. So it's pretty cool. So I should let y'all know. So what's really cool about the Canton Theater, what I like, it's kind of like we're all on a big road trip, and we all get to play like our favorite songs on the aux cord and such. I should let you know my favorite songs or my favorite bands are like Soundgarden. Trying to think of like Stained is like my first song's gonna sound a little like that, a little heavier stuff than just what we're listening to. So, and I like it, I love it. I just it's better to let y'all know than you find out, I guess. Oh, I'm off by the way, Dan. Oh. Let me turn my mic a little bit. We'll get it figured out here. Thank you. That's too much, right? I can turn. I'm up all the way. Good? Okay, cool. All right. Well, this song is called Give. So I hope y'all like it. And all that you tried to take from me, I put it into a box. I sent it all back, the smell of starting to get to me, and memories full of mold. And all the little things that made me happy had shown their teeth, vapid and empty, and all the little things like a little warning on that. So it's quiet, I think it's good, cool. So it's Wise Men Told Me Once. So this song is called, I actually don't have a name for it. So here we go, I think you'll like it.